Cool. I'd like to call the meeting to order. August 21st, 2024 meeting of City of Murrieta Traffic Commission is called to order. May I do a roll call, please? Would Madam Administrative Assistant Santos, roll call for quorum, please.
Present. Present. Present.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no changes to the agenda.
I move to approve. I second.
Just as a reminder, please, if I could interrupt, could you please turn on your microphones?
That must be loud enough. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Hold on. Approval agenda, sorry. There we go. All right.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we'll now be moving on to the Engineering Department administrative updates, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. It's great to see you all again. I'd like to provide a brief recap of our active CIP projects that were recently completed, are currently in design, in construction, or about to start construction. For projects that are in design, we have two new traffic signals. The first at Jefferson Avenue and Magnolia Street, and the second at Clinton Keith Road and Nutmeg Street. At that location, the improvements is for the purpose of a protected left turn phasing for motorists turning onto Clinton Keith Road. Design for both signals is anticipated to be completed the first quarter of next year. We're also working on a pedestrian safety curb ramp improvements at 13 different locations, consisting of a total of 36 curb ramps. And this occurs on Clinton Keith Road, Murrieta Hot Springs Road, Whitewood Road, and several other locations near schools. And lastly, the other project in design is for the pavement rehabilitation of Los Alamos Road, Antelope Road, and Elm Street. Regarding projects that are currently in construction, we have a full four-way traffic signal being installed at the intersection of Washington Avenue and Weeping Willow Lane. Construction is anticipated to be completed next month or early October at the latest. For projects that will begin construction later this year or the first quarter of next year, we have four projects that I'd like to touch on. We have the right turn pocket at Alta Murrieta Drive. We recently advertised that project for bids, and we received one bid. So we are in the process of re-advertising that project within the next several weeks, with construction starting probably right after the first of the year. We're also working on the Murrieta to Hot Springs Road widening project, which is in the final design. And we're currently working on the specifications and other contract documents and the estimate. That project will also start construction probably the end of the year, beginning of next year. We're also working on the pavement rehabilitation between Whitewood Road and Murrieta Road. That will, construction will start later this year. It's out to bid as we speak. And lastly, we have the slurry seal of residential streets. That'll be 25% of our city, which is spread out evenly, approximately evenly, between the 5 districts within the city. Lastly, I just wanted to touch on a recently completed project that was the pavement rehabilitation on Clinton Keith Road between our westerly city limits and Grand Avenue. That project was completed on time and just under budget. And with that, that concludes engineering updates at this time.
With nothing further, we'll move on to public comments. At this time, we'd like to take public comments. Any person may address the Traffic Commission on any subject pertaining to the city business, which does not relate to any item listed on the agenda or the consent calendar. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the Traffic Commission on that matter and not listed on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Madam Santos, are there any members of the public requesting to speak?
We do not have any non-agenda public comments. That concludes public comments for this section.
Thank you. We're now moving on to the consent approval. All right. Consent calendar. So items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. Are there any requests from the commissioners to pull this consent calendar item from any discussion or abstain from voting? Seeing none. Madam Santos, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on the consent calendar item?
There are no public comments on the consent calendar items at this time. This concludes the public comments for consent calendar.
Thank you. May I call for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
I motion to approve.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the discussion items. Adams Avenue striping changes. Staff, we have a staff report, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'd like to do a brief introduction. For the residents in the audience, my name is James Ozoff, Senior Civil Engineer here at the city. I'm the primary Traffic Commission liaison and point of contact. It's my pleasure to introduce tonight's agenda items. We have 2 discussion items this evening. And being that they're discussion items, staff will have recommended actions that will require the commissioners to discuss and ultimately vote on. The first is a discussion item is relating to the installation of bike lanes on Adams Avenue between Magnolia Street and Valor Drive. This item was previously discussed at the April 17th Traffic Commission meeting and is a continuation of that discussion. The second item is a new discussion item relating to the modification of a 2-way stop to a full 4-way stop at the intersection of Jackson Avenue and Magellan Street. Staff has prepared brief presentations for each discussion item, which will be given by our traffic engineers, Ms. Ida Edgington and Mr. Brian Stevenson. With that said, I will now turn it over to Mr. Brian Stevenson for our first agenda item.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you recall, we presented this at the April 17th Traffic Commission meeting and postponed it till this meeting. So this is pretty much a similar presentation with a little bit more information in it. The city received a request from a resident of the city to install bike lanes on Adams Avenue between Magnolia Street and Valor Drive. And the reason for this was to provide a designated bike lane for the bicyclists. A little bit of background information is that Adams Avenue is classified on the city's general plan circulation element as a collector road with one travel lane in each direction. Part of the same circulation element has a general plan trails and bikeways map, and it identifies striped Class 2 bike lanes on Adams between Calmia at the south end and Magnolia at the north end. Just a little bit of explanation of what a general plan is. The general plan is a city council approved document that provides the framework for how the city develops. The circulation element section of the general plan contains the circulation element map and the bikes and trails map, which provide the framework to get vehicles and bicyclists safely and efficiently around the city. Staff is tasked with ensuring that the roadways in the city come into compliance with the city's general plan. This is the circulation element of the general plan, and highlighted or circled in red text on the bottom left of the corner. This is the segment bubbled. This is from Calmia Street to Magnolia. There's currently striped bike lanes starting at Calmia going to the north up to Valor, and then not north of Valor, between Valor and Magnolia. And this is showing that it's classified as a collector street on the city's circulation element. This is the trails and bikeways map that shows this segment. And what this is showing, this is a purple solid line and purple dots. The purple solid line are existing bike lanes, and the dotted lines are proposed striped bike lanes for this section that we're talking about. A little bit more background information. There are always stops at the intersections of Adams Avenue and Valor Drive, Davison Street, as well as Adams Ave and Magnolia Street. This section of the road is posted at 25 miles an hour, and there are single-family residential homes on the east side of the street only. Today, there's no bike lanes along this segment of the road, and vehicles currently park along both sides of the street. Again, this was presented at the April 17th meeting and then postponed till this meeting. So just walking you through the segments of the road from the south to north, I thought this would provide a good visualization of the road. So from Calmia Street on Adams Avenue, you're looking north right now, and we're driving north. So left to right, you see that the street is currently posted at this segment for 35 miles an hour, and there's currently striped bike lanes on both sides of the road. Once you get up to Lemon Street, you'll notice that the posted speed limit changes to 30 miles an hour. And again, there's striped Class 2 bike lanes along both sides of the street. This goes all the way up to Davidson Street, Valor Drive, where they stop. The segment that we're talking about tonight is the segment between Davidson, Valor, and Magnolia Street. This section is posted at 25 miles an hour, and as you can see, there's no striped bike lanes, and there's a couple cars parked on the street. This gives you just a graphical representation of how long this segment is. This is roughly a mile of road between Calmia Street and Magnolia, and it's roughly 1,100 feet between Davidson Street and Magnolia. So after the last meeting, we went out and took pictures weekly of traffic along the street to see how are vehicles currently utilizing the street and what are the potential opportunities for vehicles to park for these homes. So we looked and we saw that these are number of parking stalls for each of the garages of these 16 homes. So there's 3-car garages for most of them, 2-car garages for a couple of them. There's the associated parking right for a 3-car garage. You would associate 3 spots behind it in the driveway. And then we looked along the street to see, are there any available street parking spots on the street on the east side of the street only? So for these 16 homes, it ranged between 5 and 7 spots for each of these homes. So that's an average of 6.8 parking spaces for each of these homes. What we're proposing is to implement the city council approved circulation element of the general plan and complete this missing segment of bike lanes, striped bike lanes. So this is a plan that shows how we would accomplish this. We are not proposing to take away any parking from these residents along their side of the street. we would still allow an 8-foot parking lane along their side of the street. So they would still have between 5 and 7 spots for each of these homes. Adjacent to the 8-foot parking lane, there would be a 2-foot striped buffer between a 5-foot bike lane and an 11-foot, and then an additional 11-foot northbound travel lane. And in the southbound direction, there would be an 11-foot travel lane and a 5-foot bike lane. So our recommendation is to install bicycle lanes on Adams Avenue between Magnolia Street and Valor Drive, consistent with the city's general plan. And that concludes the staff presentation.
Comments regarding the discussion item?
Would you like to ask the commissioners if they have any questions prior to public comments?
Sure. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the Adams Avenue striping changes?
I have a question. Just want to make sure I understand this clearly. So you said something that caught my attention that I maybe missed the last time we met and discussed this. You mentioned there's an 8-foot buffer. And so if I'm looking at this correctly, that 8-foot buffer goes from the sidewalk in front of these 16 homes where they can still park, and then the bike lane is adjacent to that?
I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't too clear. It's an 8-foot parking lane between the sidewalk and then a 2-foot striped buffer. The reason we would want to put a buffer in there is for if anyone opens the car door and someone's in a bike lane, we want to provide a little bit extra cushion for them so they don't ride into an opening car door. We've done that in the past near Alta Elementary School at Whitewood and Alta. So, and then there are 2 11-foot travel lanes, which are the minimum travel lane width that we have in the city. Mm-hmm. And then the 5-foot is the minimum required bike lane. But yes, an 8-foot parking lane in front of the homes.
Gotcha. So if I'm one of those residents, I could still pull up in front of my house. If I don't want to park in my driveway or my garage, then there's some little bit of standoff, and then there's a bike lane, and then there's still enough room to travel based on city requirements.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I had 2 questions just to confirm. South side of Adams Avenue, there'll be no parking allowed, correct?
Yeah, and the southbound, so it'd be on the, we're calling Adams north-south street. It is a little diagonal, but since the 15 and 215 are north-south streets, these run parallel, we call Adams north-south. So on the west side of Adams, there will be a striped bike lane which would prohibit parking along the west side.
And then the second question I had was after Magnolia Street, you have Nutmeg where it's kind of a dead end and you're forced to go left or right. As far as future plans regarding bike paths, is the city's plan to just continue all the way to Nutmeg?
They're also in this trails and bikeways map of the general plan circulation element, but today there's that, it's blocked off at Magnolia Street. There's a gate. Actually, I'm not sure if there's even a gate, but it's blocked off. You cannot drive straight past Magnolia there. That was blocked off a few years ago. At some point in the future, we will likely be coming back and asking for to install Class 2 bike lanes from the north side of the gate of Magnolia to Nutmeg Street.
Thank you.
Madam Santos, are there any public comments regarding this discussion item?
There are. I would like to call Justin Moldenhauer to the podium.
How you doing, Justin?
24136 Adams Avenue, Justin Moldenhauer, family of 5, all 5 drivers, 2-car garage, 2 cars in front of my house. That's it. Not to mention the young high school, college kids that I got coming over. One house from the corner, my neighbor has a 3-car garage, but 1 spot in front of his house. So it's gonna push all of our guest company and everybody to my right, chasing those 4 spots up Valor and down Summit. So we're not gonna be able to park in front of our home, especially if somebody has a get together. So we're gonna kind of turn into LA where we're circling the block looking for a shark in a spot. It is excess parking for sure on the other side, but I absolutely have to have it. So it's a negative impact on me. And I have 3 employees that meet for carpool at my house, and I know 2 other people that do the same to use the other side of the street. And they actually don't even live in our community. They live in one of the gated and then one down Summit. So that's going to put 7 cars up and down Valor to find spots. So it's just a negative impact on us. That's it. Thanks.
Calling Dan Rope.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. When I got the letter, I live at 24112 Adams, been there since 1999. A couple of points that I would make that in that space, the 1,200 feet, you impact 16 homes, I believe it is, 16 homes and roughly 60 plus adults that are in that 1,200 feet, which you don't have that much people in the rest all the way up to the school at the south end of Adams. Been there. If you've been there for very long, if you watch people come and go as we had for 2 decades plus, the cars start at 35 and they go to 30 and they're supposedly go to 25, but that doesn't happen, particularly when they're racing to school. So if you widen it and keep it open like it is on the rest of the space, with a lot of area to move faster, is a sense of safety, that they can move faster and they can see somebody come through. But when you're pulling out of a driveway or you got a kid coming down the driveway, not the same case. So, and I'm a biker, and I was part of the team in the 2008, 2009 to promote a biking community. What I requested of planning is to not consider a bike lane, but consider a sparrow. Let the bikes move out into the front of the road, and then they own the road like they do in downtown, or how they do when you go underneath the freeway. And then that way, we're not giving up the parking. 2, we're not giving a false sense of freeway on one side that everybody's going to use that buffer to go faster. So there's a safety issue, there's a speed issue, and of course the impact to us, 60 people, and again, 16 houses in that space. There is not another street in Murrieta or Temecula that I could find that has bike lanes on both sides on that narrow a street with that many people impacted. Thank you for your time.
Calling Bill Finetti.
I live at 24104 Adams, which is right next to Mr. Roque. I spoke before you guys at the meeting in April. I'm curious, besides what the gentleman from traffic have done, has there been any other studies other than what they showed in the way of figures? No answers?
I can't speak to what else the city has done.
I'm just curious because I saw 2 things that really caught my attention. One is the fact it says that this is a residence request, and then I see one that says it's a part of the general plan. Is it one, the other, or both? And my other question is, we went over this in our last meeting, which was the horse path that is already there. I'm still having problems with the fact that we have a horse path that has encroached, that property, I don't know about you guys, but I've lived here 34 years. And I bet I'm probably one of the longest residents, at least in that general area. So I've watched that road go from a nice wide kind of a country road down and down, and now we're gonna choke it some more and add some more bike paths and unnecessary type of stuff. I understand people ride bicycles. We've got these new electric bikes that are tearing up and down the street. And guys, I want kids to have fun. I mean, my kids are grown and gone. But it's gotta stop somewhere, all right? If it doesn't, stop or do something different, I mean, where's it going to end? Where's the next path? The parking's going to disappear. People are going to have a hard time getting out of their driveway. And I mean, just spoke to the police officers. They said people were not speeding, but they're not there 24 hours a day. I'm there more than they are. So I guess my overall statement is one path, figure out what you want, but quit encroaching. Thank you.
Vice Chair Burchard, that concludes public comments.
Are there any additional commissioner comments or discussion topics?
I did have a question. Somebody brought up the term a sparrow lane for bicycle. I don't know if I said the word correctly, but if that's actually a term, can one of you elaborate on what that is?
Yeah, it's a sharrow, S-H-A-R-R-O-W. Those are images of a bicycle in the middle of a travel lane with two arrows ahead of it, the bicyclist. And they're used on lower speed roads where there's not enough width to install a striped bike lane. So we do have them along Washington Avenue in the downtown area. That's the only location we have them in the city.
And based on the speed of this road and the width of it, would that be an option for this road?
That could be an option, along with we would have to do a general plan circulation or a general plan update or a general plan amendment, because right now it calls for the class 2 bike lanes. So if we change the classification of the striping or type of facility on there, that would be a general plan amendment.
I have a question, just for the last gentleman. Was it part of the general plan request or from the residents?
It was brought to our attention from a resident's request. It is also in the city's general plan, so both would be the correct response.
Okay. And I wasn't at the last meeting. Did you guys already discuss why we couldn't just do a bike lane on the one side where the horse trail is and not encroach on the other side?
No, we did not.
No.
Can I add a little bit of information?
Absolutely.
One of the residents said that there's not a similar location in the facility or in the city. While there's not an exactly similar location, as discussed at the previous meeting, there is a location in the city on Hunter Road between Augusta Drive and Masters. It's 1,200 feet in length. It has 12 single-family homes. It is 44 feet wide. This is 42 feet wide here. And it has striped bike lanes along both sides of the road. However, parking is restricted on both sides of the road there. So we're not proposing to restrict parking for these residents on their side of the road. It is currently restricted on Hunter. So although it's not exactly, it's a very similar example in the city.
It's at your discretion, Vice Chair.
Yeah, that is at the chair's discretion.
Absolutely. Come on. Yep, no problem.
I rode my bike on Hunter and I drive up.
Can you come
Yeah,
up?
come on up, please. Yeah,
Please come up.
take your time. No problem.
If I'm remembering Hunter accurately, Hunter has a center road in the middle of it, right, for a turn lane?
There are center turn lanes for intersections around there, yes.
So it's a deceptive comment to say that that's as wide and as tight as that 1,200 feet with 60 adult plus on that 1,200 feet versus the distance between Hunter and the distance he's talking about on the 2-lane. Take a ride on it. It's not even close to looking the same. It's not a residential area and it's not at 25 mile an hour that I'm aware of. Hunter is not 25 mile an hour, is it?
I don't believe so. I believe it's 30 miles an hour on that street.
So it's a different dynamic. I drove around looking for one. There isn't one. and I apologize, I didn't know the Sparrow. I know that we get to have the lane when we come across that on his biker. And that puts the cars behind us, not to the side of us. We're not trying to fight them, and they're not able to pass us. So that's what we do when we go down through the city and we race or we ride on our group rides, and or when we go underneath the freeway where the Sparrows are as well, because the lanes stop and because people are going on and off the freeways, the Sparrows go underneath the city at all those junctions where the bike lanes are. So again, I'm not wanting to change the general plan on our biking enthusiasm around the city. My intent is to not impact those residents in that 1,200 feet. And I don't know if you have it. I sent an email with all the residents that was for it. It's the bulk of the residents that are against the proposed striping. But they're not opposed to biking. They're just opposed to the striping and the impact it's going to have on them, on that 1,200 feet. Thank you. Thanks for letting me have a second.
No, thank you. Commissioners, anything further?
Just to clarify on the Sparrow, whatever it is, correct me if I'm wrong, the general plan would have to be redone to incorporate that, to allow it to be on a more narrow road?
Yes, we would have to change the circulation element of the general plan,
Okay.
update it.
Which might take some time, I would assume, or I don't know if that's an easy process.
If I were to guesstimate, it's at least a year-long process, and there's a lot of public input.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. Nope. Okay.
Vice Chair, if I may.
Sure.
My system isn't working for the motions, so if you could call out who you are, if you're a motioner or a seconder, if you could call out your name, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. The voting part is working.
Not a problem. Thank you. All right. May I call for a motion in a second?
This is Commissioner Limoyanis. I motion against the recommendation.
Commissioner Ortiz, I second for not striping.
We have a motion and a second for
Motion fails.
okay. Excuse me. Moving on. On to Jackson Avenue and Magellan Street intersection. Staff, we have a staff report, please, on that intersection.
Can I just clarify real quick, because I know we were having trouble with the voting. When you say motion fails, you mean we're not voting, we're voting against putting the bicycle lane. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's how we understood it.
Just want to make sure.
Well, actually, that's not the way I understood it. So technically, I believe what you've just done, you moved not to do the striping, and then all four of you voted against that. So that means that you voted to stripe it.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that was what your intent was.
it was not.
So I might suggest maybe you do a more clear motion, and can we do another vote? It would be good that we clear this for the record, what your intent was.
Well, since I did the last motion, my motion is to go against the city's recommendation to add a bike lane. So we do not have a bike lane.
And I second. Commissioner Ortiz, I second.
So if you're voting in favor of that, you want to vote yes.
You vote yes then.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on. Jackson Avenue and Magellan Street intersection. Staff, I have staff report, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll go over Jackson Avenue and Magellan Street intersection discussion item. Beginning in 2014, the city received a request from Jackson Crossing neighborhood from residents to install always stop signs or a traffic signal at the intersection of Jackson Avenue and Magellan Street. Sorry, I'm trying to point. It's not, okay. Okay, the pointer's not working for me, but, okay, so as you can see, the red is where the Jackson Avenue stretches, and Magellan Street intersection is the one that's circled. The residents' concern were high speed on Jackson Avenue, increased traffic volumes on Jackson Avenue since the Inez Road connection in 2014. If you follow the red line, that's where that connection is, Date Street. Their concern was also limited sight distance at the intersection and the potential for accidents. Just background information, Jackson Avenue at this location is classified as 4-lane major roadway with bike lanes per the city's general plan. The current posted speed limit is 45 miles an hour. Per the residents' requests, traffic signal and always stop warrants were studied in 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2018. At that time, warrants for either of those controls were not met. Staff also measured the sight distance in the field, and the minimum sight distance per city standard were met at the time. To increase visibility, however, the Jackson Crossing HOA removed overgrown vegetation within the site corridor per city's request. This happened around 2015, 2016. The city also installed intersection ahead signs, which is the picture that you see there, in 2016 to warn drivers on Jackson Avenue that a Magellan Street intersection is ahead. Some general information: to justify installing always stops or traffic signals, warrants must be met based on national and state guidelines set forth in the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, also California METCD. For always stops, the warrants include meeting minimum volumes where the volume of traffic on the intersecting roads are approximately equal, or accident history, or there's which is 5 or more accidents in a 12-month period, or sight distance constraints. Similarly, for traffic signals, some of these warrants include meeting minimum vehicular volumes for 8 hours, 4 hours, or peak hour on an average day, where there are heavy pedestrian volumes or that encounter excessive delay, and similarly, if there's an accident history, 5 or more in a 12-month period. In 2014, residents requested a reevaluation for a traffic signal or always stops at the same intersection. The city collected new data, which showed the 85th percentile speed was 46 miles an hour northbound and 54 miles per hour southbound. There were approximately 15,500 vehicles per day that travel on Jackson Avenue. There was overgrown vegetation and trees that were observed within the sight line that have not been maintained by the HOA, as you can see in the picture in the bottom right. The traffic signal warrants were still not met. However, per the METCD criteria, an always stop warrant is met due to the sight distance constraints. Our staff recommendation is to install always stop control at this intersection. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions at this time?
Can you state the cost of the project and if it will impact any other projects?
The cost is approximately $10,000. And I don't know if impact about other projects, maybe Brian can speak on.
Yeah, it should not impact any other projects.
Do you know if there's any status on Whitewood going all the way through to Yanez in the upcoming future?
Nothing currently planned in the next 5 years.
Cool.
Hey, Chair, can I just add really quickly? There is some rumblings of some development activity that may be taking place near that the intersection of Whitewood and Jackson. If that development project were to come through, then that could lead to doing some improvements in there. If a development plan was starting today, it would probably still take 2, 3, 4 years for that to take place. Anyway, that's if that development comes along.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a busy road, especially with Sam's Club there and the new Trader Joe's. Everybody speeds right there, so. No further questions? Okay. Madam Santos, are there any public comments regarding the discussion item?
We do have public comments. We're going to call Mary Johnson at this time. Miss Rosie Wells has donated her time to Mary Johnson, so Miss Johnson will have 6 minutes.
Hello.
Good evening.
I live at 40591 LaSalle Place, Jackson Crossing. In 1988, my family moved to Murrieta, not yet a city, 36 years ago. Traffic was much different then. Jackson didn't even go through back then. When that changed and it opened up to Temecula, the traffic increased and so did the speed. The original plan was for Jackson Crossing to go straight through to Murrieta Hot Springs, utilizing a crossover bridge west of the Harbor Freight area. Unfortunately, it was too costly. For safety reasons, this option maybe should be revisited. The biggest obstacle is the bend in the road. When you're sitting trying to exit Jackson Crossing, you look to your left, you can't see past that bend. It's so dangerous and the cars are flying. You blink and they're there where you're thinking about crossing. I mean, some days it's great, it's wide open and you can turn and there's no problem. But it's definitely a safety issue. And there's a lot of young people that have just started to drive, a lot of seniors like myself. I'll turn right before I'll turn left. You know, it just, life's too short, right? I'm at the short end of my stick. The biggest obstacle is the bend in the road looking west. I guess that's west or south, I don't know. Not only does it block incoming vehicles from the line of sight, but at the right time of day, the sun is also an obstacle. Folks sitting at the stop on Magellan cannot determine the speed or amount of incoming traffic coming their way while you're sitting there at Magellan. It's a guessing game. If stop signs were installed, folks would start slowing down prior to approaching the bend in the Magellan intersection. Due to signage, per the traffic department, traffic would probably be slowing down. Right now, there's no incentive for them to slow down at all. It's wide open from the boundary all the way down to where you go into the new Trader Joe's, and now that's all backing up. The traffic has definitely increased along with the speed. It's a racetrack at times and very noisy. And it's those times that make the subject of a four-way stop or signal so important to slow down the traffic so folks in Jackson Crossing can exit their neighborhood safely and not wonder if they will make it to the other side. Since the opening of Trader Joe's, the amount of traffic has once again increased due to the store's popularity with so many people. Also, the new residential construction just on the other side of the boundary in Temecula will increase commuters as the properties fill up. On some days, especially Fridays, and now more than days of the week, the traffic backs up before Magellan going towards Murrieta Hot Springs. Folks come flying around the bend from the south, not expecting traffic to be stopped. Recent skid marks testify to this statement. It's so dangerous. In my opinion, Jackson Crossing community is a dangerous situation. There's only one exit from the development. There are no other choices. There are many young drivers as well as seniors. Please consider making this section of Jackson safer, not only for Jackson Crossing residents, but for all the other commuters who travel this road. The dynamics of Jackson are changing faster than ever before. Perhaps a revisit to the area in question and the bend in the road could be reassessed with this new information. Again, I believe the bend more than the landscape, that is the safety issue. If it's landscape, that can be alleviated easily. Then where does the liability fall? This was the city's planning. Safety should be a priority. The city of Temecula did the right thing and installed signals and four-way stops when construction began close to the border of Murrieta to control the traffic speed. Pro-safety. The stretch between the Temecula-Murrieta border and Magellan is a speed zone. Please support the residents of Murrieta with this important safety issue. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Calling Carol Mata. I'm sorry. Carlos, thank you.
I have bad writing. Hello, good evening. Thank you for taking this time to speak to, or let us speak to you. I live at 25843 Marco Polo Street in the Jackson Crossing community. I've lived there for over 16 years now. As Mrs. Johnson stated, I was there before Jackson was open, and back then there was really no need to turn left, but you could at any time of the day. Once it was opened, the traffic is ridiculous. I'm sure the officers here could attest to the amount of tickets that they write daily for speeding going both north and south through there. The pictures that they showed in the brief slides there, coming out of our community, which is, as Ms. Johnson stated, the only entrance and exit that we have to leave our community, is a little deceiving, because if you stop behind where the stop sign is, it's even farther back and you can barely see. You have seconds to make a decision if you're gonna roll the dice with your life that day and try to turn left, or make a right and go somewhere to make a U-turn if you want to head to Temecula. Not only is it the traffic for the Trader Joe's just open and the Sam's Club, but with the addition of the freeway work that's being done there, prior to the freeway work, this stretch of road was a natural detour for the people trying to get around traffic. I commuted to San Diego for the last almost 20 plus years, and that was an easy way for me to get off, taking as all the way even from with 79 if the traffic was so bad. But you add the construction that's being done there, and now it's considered a detour. It backs up to where it blocks our intersection at times where you can't even turn left because there's people that are blocking it. I have a son that's has had his license for a year, and I refuse to let him turn left for that one reason, because he's too young to roll that dice to see what's going on. And it's a danger for not only us as people that live in that community, but also the people that drive that road. I'm in favor of it. I'm sure you'll probably hear the same things for the other speakers here today, that it's needed. It's been needed since they opened Jackson and to Inez, and I just hope that you take that into consideration on your vote today. Thank you for your time.
Calling Kristen Jones. Miss Christine Wilson has donated her time to Miss Jones. Miss Jones has 6 minutes.
Sorry, I'm new school. I have my notes on a phone. But I live at 40688 LaSalle Place. I haven't lived here in Jackson Crossing community as long as the other two, but I have lived there for the past 5 years, and I have a son. And had I known that turning left was going to be so dangerous, I would not have bought a house in Murrieta at that community. We were between two houses, between Murrieta and Temecula. I would have chosen Temecula because it is so dangerous. I fear for when he turns 16 that he could get into a serious accident. As most of them have already said, that there are two main problems here, is that it's a blind turn. Now, we were told back in 2014 that you needed 645 feet to visibility, a straight line, to be able to keep a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit. But if you Google Map that and you actually do the distance from where the start of the turn is and to the end of the turn, to get a straight line, you have to go through our backyards. So it's not even the shrubbery of the HOA. There's just not a good enough line of sight. So they told us no, that we couldn't do it. As a community, I'm actually on the HOA board currently. We have tried to install a gate in our community to make our community safer. We were told by city engineers that we can't have a gate because of the blind turn and the speed limit, that traffic wouldn't have enough time to slow down if there was a backup coming into our neighborhood from our gate. So we were told we couldn't have it because it's a blind turn. The other big problem is about traffic and speeding. Now, I can tell you that about once a month, Murrieta PD and RSO are camped out somewhere along that stretch of that they showed in the red to catch speeders. In fact, today I saw a lovely Murrieta PD out there at 7:30 this morning. And this is about a once a month or once every 2 months, and their times are always different. So they're doing their job to try to catch the speeders. But the fact that they're out there that much, that I'm noticing that they're out there, Murrieta PD and RSO, because they're catching them coming both directions. It is definitely a problem. We talk about the volume, and we've talked about Trader Joe's. Okay, yeah, that brought in a lot of traffic, but what's gonna bring in more traffic to Jackson? The 1,000+ homes being built just past our border on Temecula, 1 mile away, 1,000+ new homes. That is 1,000 more cars coming down Jackson at minimum. One of my other neighbors talked about that our Jackson Avenue is now used as a detour for the 215 and 15. So anytime there's lots of traffic there, they go down that detour and we have more traffic. And we have the Trader Joe's, and something that a lot of them didn't know because they probably don't have young school-age children like I do. A couple of years ago, our elementary school bus stop was just 800 feet into the next neighborhood off of Allison Avenue for our elementary, our middle, and our high school. We were so worried that our children were going to get hit because let's be honest, elementary school, not that bright. Like, they are not paying attention to the cars. They'll jump out into the street if their friend pushes them. We love them, but they're not quite there. And so we actually went to the Murrieta School District and we said, hey, this is dangerous. They agreed with us. And now the elementary school bus comes into our neighborhood to pick up all of our students that go to Alta. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to convince Murrieta School District to do that also for our middle and high school students. And we're trying to tell them that, they're like this all day. But at least we won one. So we have all these people coming for Trader Joe's and Sam's Club, the 1,000+ new homes, the detour, a blind turn that even if we were to cut down every single piece of shrubbery, it's still blind. And we have Murrieta PD and RSO coming out once a month at minimum to try to slow down speeders. Tells me that we need more than just a stop sign. I honestly think we need a stop light to slow them down. Now, I know she said that she had put up an intersection coming up, and as I was coming up around that turn last night, I was driving along and I saw it. And by the time I saw it, there was already, because we have a bike lane there where it gets dotted, I was already at that position. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's like 150 feet is when the bike lane starts to dot. 200 feet. So as soon as I saw the intersection sign that says intersection coming, I was already at the intersection. That's how quick it happened. When I'm going 45 and I'm coming around that turn and I'm trying to slow down, people are on my bumper and nearly hit me for me trying to turn right into it. And trying to turn left, I can't see. There's not enough time. I'll look left, I'll look right, okay, no cars. I look left, and again, there's more cars. It's so fast that we need something there, because I really don't want to put it out there into karma, if you believe in that kind of stuff, but someone is going to have a very tragic accident there very soon. And I really hope it's nobody, and especially nobody in my neighborhood. Thanks for your time.
Calling Oliver, and I'm sorry about this, Malbarias? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Olivier Marabanan. I lived in 25916 Marco Polo Street in Jackson Crossing community since 2009. And I think I only need to add like a little bit of what the folks already said. If you're, because there's 2 lanes going out, one going right and one going left. And if somebody's going left, like an SUV, and you are going right, you can't see oncoming traffic on the left. So you have to wait for that SUV to cross before you can see if it's safe to turn right. So that's one thing for me. And I know they showed on the picture that the line of sight is 15 feet past the stop sign. Even if you look to the left, there's still small visual that you can see oncoming traffic. And for the speeding part, I know the average was 45 to 56 miles per hour, but it only takes one speeder, going 65, 70 miles an hour, which it happens on that intersection. It only takes one for us to get hit. It doesn't matter if it's the average, but it only takes one speeder to cross the intersection without stop sign and cause an accident. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Vice Chair Buchurch, that concludes public comments.
Thank you. Are any commissioner comments and/or discussion, please? Okay, we'll go ahead and call for a motion in a second, please.
I motion to approve the staff's recommendation to install the 4-way stop sign.
May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, commissioner member comments. Now is the time for commissioners to provide any comments, and we'll start with who would like to start? Does anybody have anything?
I'd like to thank the staff for putting this all together for us and making it easy to understand for those of us that aren't experts in this, in these matters.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you to the folks who came here to help us understand what we're voting on.
Any other commissioners? Nope. Okay. Okay. Without any further business, the meeting is now adjourned. Harder?